Let's talk a little bit about the design profession, the graphic design profession. What does it mean to be a graphic designer? And just to get started, where do you see graphic design in the real world? This is something that we ask in class to start, and just thinking about what you've started to observe, and that's kind of opening your eyes to graphic design. So it could be something that you saw on the way here, it could be something that you saw on a screen, in your phone, on your TV, what you were watching, whatever. So think about that. Where did you see? Where? This short video just gives you a quick overview of what graphic design is. So it's the art of visualizing ideas. That's one definition of what graphic design is. Thinking about some of the research that you've done will influence these questions that we ask. So if you haven't done that part in the job outlook and things like that, to understand a little bit about what does a solution do with things. But a solution in our world can do a lot. It can persuade. It can get you to believe a certain thing or support a certain thing, or don't support a different thing. It can help you understand the way that you get where you're going. It can help you navigate. It can help get you to understand something. It can help you to give you information on something, connect with something. And it's not necessarily a physical thing in any of those ways of what you hold, but it gives you a connection to a particular company, an organization, help give you maybe some motivation too. So a lot of things a graphic design solution can do, but it can influence your behaviors as well. It can be that effective. Thinking, in the back of your mind as you're looking at this, you don't need to respond, but has design ever influenced your or changed your behavior? We'll talk about that in class. Here's some definitions of it, and we'll look at one that we use together as a class. Graphic design is a language that creates belief in an object, an idea, or a message. It's a noun, it's a verb. It's something that we go through, it's something that we create, it's something that we think about, it's something that we can hold in our hands. A lot of different play of the word design, what it is. It's thinking made visual. The definition that we use as a group is this: a combination of visual elements into a unified whole to communicate an idea or a concept to a specific audience. And there's there's four in this one, but if you think about it, it's visual, it's unified, it communicates, and is for a particular audience. You're going to do something different for a group of your peers versus someone who lives in a different state or someone who is a different age, that kind of thing. So that's our definition of graphic design. Visual communication that conveys a message or information to a specific audience. That's our definition. Those three things: visual communication, message or information, and specific audience. What does a designer do? There's a lot that a designer does. It can be things for print, it can be things for screen, it can be things for printed, it can be things that we see in our car that we're driving by, things that we can hold in our hands. A lot of little things that design can create, or what designer can do. All right. And we looked through some of this in your research about what a graphic designer does. Okay. So that's one thing that a designer does. Here's some different things to consider. A graphic designer solves problems within a set of constraints. We need to know, for example, a constraint might be the date. It might be like the due date. It could be the size. It could be where it's going to be. Is it going to be on a screen? Is it going to be on a billboard? Is it going to be on a phone versus a tablet? Those kinds of things. What does a design, what's its constraint? It can also look at its goals. And what is the intention of this design? Is it to rescue this cat? Is it to, what do we do when we're done? That's the thing to remember, is we need a call to action. What is it that we want to do if somebody sees this that you've designed? What's the goal? What's the purpose? Sell products, get people to do this, get people to do that, support this. A designer gathers information. You have to do some research. You have to do some looking at what's been done before. What's the hope? What's the competition do? Organization matters within design, so you can help get things in line. It helps create a hierarchy. Thinking about your textbooks, for example, of any class, there's a hierarchy. We know where the page numbers are. We all know where the paragraph is, the chapter title, the section title, whatever. So organization can help. We do get to make things that look nice, things that are unique, things that are custom, things that are solutions that are, it could be that they're nice to look at, but it's more about something that's original and unique too. Designers have to talk to clients, do some research with stakeholders, but present your ideas and get some feedback. It's something you have to do. And the idea of being a gatekeeper, and the idea of a gatekeeper comes from, thinking about things that are creating a better world, a better life. It's not necessarily taking everything down and ruining it. It's about making things, putting things in a positive way for whatever you are working on. Okay, and this comes along with this idea of first things first. This was this manifesto put on first in the late 60s, if I remember correctly, and it's been just on the left is another version of it. And if you just look really quickly at it, designers are people who we have been bombarded with publications devoted to this belief, applauding work of those who have created things such as cat food and stomach powders, slimming diets, fattening diets, fizzy water, roll-ons, pull-ons, slip-ons, all those things. And it's saying, yeah, those things are needed probably, but we don't advocate for the quitting of that advertising. But we advocate for putting things out in the world that is useful for our skills, but it is also to think about how do we make the world a better place. All right, so it's just a concept kind of that designers work towards, proposing a reversal of priorities in favor of the more useful and lasting forms of communication. So it's not just selling things. It's how else can we use design? So it's just another way of thinking about it as a gatekeeper. So what does a designer create? We looked at that one, skipped that one too far, sorry. And that could be, that was one of your questions on the project, or the exercise of what a designer create, and the design archives could be posters, book covers, it could be packaging, it could be a lot of little things, a lot of different things. It's something that's in print, it's a website, it's a logo, it's connections to branding, a lot of different things that designers can create. Okay, so just thinking about that. Where do designers work? Well, four common ones that designers work in. You can work in-house. That might mean that you work for Caterpillar. You might work for State Farm, just thinking big picture. You work for a business that has a department of design kind of thing. Sometimes, though, they hire in studios, and studios might work with more than one client. They might work with a hospital for this. They might work with a small business for the next project, that kind of thing. So it's actual agency or studio, less corporate if you really think about that. Contractors work in a particular timeline or a particular project. That and freelance are kind of similar, but you might stick around for 6 weeks and then work on anything that they need you to work on. Freelancers might just get hired out of the blue and work on a particular project and then be done. And challenge to think about that. Do you want to work in a more corporate? Does that matter in a corporate world? Do you want to work in freelance where you can choose exactly everything that you work on, but maybe the trade-off of that is, well, where am I getting paid next? All right, so there's a lot of little things that come into play when you think about where a designer works. And related to that, when you think about getting an associate's degree versus a bachelor's degree, is there benefit to it? Yeah, there is. We've found just an associate's degree kind of gives you an entry-level job. A two-year degree could get you an entry-level job in the area, roughly $15 an hour in Peoria if there is options, but then you could move up from there. Through our program, though, and what we've experienced is that if you go on and connect with other schools and complete a 4-year program, you'll probably get $25 an hour, and you might have a little more connection to businesses, organizations that you could work for. So you might start at a higher position and you might make more per hour. Regardless of where you're going, what they want to see is a portfolio. So that's kind of one of the things that you create by going through our program here too, is a portfolio for showcasing your work. Design is collaborative, right? So it's going to be that you work with clients, you work with other designers, you work with somebody who has a strength in something that you might not have a strength in. For example, if you know you need a photographer on a project, you might hire a photographer rather than just taking your phone out of your pocket and capturing what you need. So how do you work with other people? How do you collaborate? How do you work with somebody who's a really good writer, or who that's their love? And then you do the visual, you combine the two and work together. All right, so it's a partnership. Here's a nice quote: pay attention to what you pay attention to, and that can influence you on maybe what direction you go. If you really love to photograph, how could you use that? If you really like illustration, how could you use that and go that direction? Okay.